Hi, it's Dr. Taylor Burrows. Thanks for tuning into my channel. So today I wanted to talk to you about how to get over him or her and move on. It's one of those age-old topics that always is problematic and people continuously find difficulty getting through. And they usually reach out and ask somebody that they trust and love for support during this difficult time. So in case you don't know, I am your relationship and mental health expert. I have a PhD in marriage and family therapy and 2 professional licenses in mental health and marriage and family therapy. So that's why I talk about these topics, and you can seek me out for your own online consultations. You can just check the notes at the bottom of this video and you can get access to all my links. So it's my website, my podcast, my subscribe link to my newsletter, don't mind the chickens, and everything else, my social media handle, my email, the whole shebang. So getting back to the point about how to move on when there's a breakup or for whatever reason, whoever's fault it is, and how to pick up the pieces and focus on moving forward into the future for the next relationship. It can be very difficult because it does inflict a process of grieving, and grief is different for everybody. Whenever you have to accept the loss of someone in your life, whether by choice or accident or trauma, for whatever reason, it's a drastic change to your worldview and how you saw your life functioning, what you were accustomed to, and changing routines. Changing plans for your future is really, really difficult. And then there's the emotional component. Clearly, you're going to grieve not having that person. The attachment is gone. So you might be unable to sleep or sleeping too much. You may be eating poorly, eating too much, eating too little, or just eating bad food. You could have lost your rhythm in your fitness and health. So you may not be taking care of yourself, you may not be going to the gym, you may not be getting hydrating yourself or getting sunlight, getting some movement. You may not be having sex anymore, and that could have been some extra movement for you and exercise. So there's a lot of things that you need to make sure are in place even though that relationship is gone. And it's hard because the emotional changes are going to unmotivate you from taking care of yourself. You're going to want to wallow in that sadness. So you really have to separate the two and allow yourself the opportunity to grieve emotionally, but then also take care of yourself. So that means making sure that you're sleeping properly, making sure that you're eating properly, making sure that you're going to the gym and getting the exercise that you need, and making sure that you're going to work or doing the work, whatever it is that you do for a living, making sure that you take some time for yourself, but that you're able to set a pace of productivity. So whether that's part-time or whether that's a couple of days off here and there when it's a really bad time, do that, but make sure that you get back into a groove, because having structure and having a routine is a protective factor anytime there's any major crises in your life. And they're probably not dead, they're probably just not with you, and so you really are just mending this loss based on the attachment. So I would just redirect your focus instead of obsessing over why or what if or all of the anxiety that comes with a breakup. It's redirecting that focus onto you, really rediscovering what you want out of life. Okay, now all those possibilities that were in place based on your partnership, they're gone. You got to accept that. So you're going to go through the stages of grief, which basically it's the bargaining stage in the beginning, and it's the despair stage. You're going to have the anger phase, but we really want to get you through to the acceptance phase. And that takes as long as it takes. It's different for every person. So once you're able to accept, I mean, that's skipping a bunch of steps ahead, but maybe not the stage of acceptance, but if you're just motivated, you're motivated to let go. You might not be able to right away, but you know this is over. So when I say accept it, you are not in denial, right? Because that's a very normal first reaction to any type of grief, really. Even before the bargaining stage, is you're going to be in denial, and that shock of feeling almost like they're still there and you feel like something's missing and you're not really quite caught up with yourself, that they're not with you anymore. So that can be a prolonged stage, and the longer that is, the worse it is. It doesn't mean you're not gonna recover from this, but we want to get you out of that stage so that you're not in denial and moving through the anxiety, the bargaining, to the anger, the despair, towards that acceptance. So as you're able to do that, you start with the basics. Like I said, those basic human needs are met. Even if you don't really want to do it, you're not really connected to those activities, you're not engaged and excited, but you're just doing them, that's fine. It'll start to surface your reconnection to all those activities and feeling more present in them. But for a while, they're just going to feel like distractions and almost nuisances, like they're getting in the way of your grief and sadness. But do them anyway. And then once that starts to become a regular routine for you, then you're going to be able to move into those obsessive thoughts and redirect all that obsessive energy, all those neuroses. You want to funnel them into productivity. So identify what you can be productive in, whether it's some kind of passion project, some kind of hobby. It'd be great if it's something creative. If you have any kind of creative interests, absolutely put your attention to arts or photography or anything like that, because it's also self-expressive, it's emotive, you can get that stuff out, it can get out of your head and through your body. Getting into yoga or anything tactile is really, really good. Anything that connects you and grounds you to the ground, so anything physiological like yoga, because that's a mind-body connection activity. And so redirecting that neurotic energy into something productive. If it's work related, it could be not throwing yourself into work like becoming a workaholic, but it could be finding something that is important to you that you can really throw yourself into, because it might be sublimating that energy, but it's a better one, right? It's a much more healthy one that's going to lead to success, that's going to re-engage you into your life. And all of a sudden, you'll realize one day that you're not thinking about them anymore. And when you do, it can be pleasant, and it's not the end of the world. And you don't have to worry about dating again. A lot of people say, well, just jump in the saddle again. But I don't think that's advisable, because the worst thing that can happen is that you bring your baggage into the next relationship. Because a lot of people do that out of that attachment. They just want to attach to somebody else. So be very careful not to do that, right? Stick with your friends and your family if you need company. And if you need any kind of emotional support, reach out to a counselor or a therapist or coach even. Like I said, I'm available online. If you live far away, you still have someone that maybe that you can now reach out to if this has happened to you. And once you're able to separate that need for an attachment and get that emotion out, you're going to start to heal. And that's what's really important, is starting to regulate those emotions without needing a depository for them, right? So especially, you'll see it, well, you see it with men and women, but I see it a lot with men. They don't often stay alone. Nobody likes it. Very few people like solitude, but especially when you're grieving, it can be really easy to just find a warm body to be next to. And if it then becomes a consistent, maybe not intended to be a relationship, but a consistent occurrence, it can then sort of end up into an accidental relationship, and you're really just reattached to somebody else. It's probably not healthy for you, because you didn't intentionally filter for them, screen for them, vet them, and it could be a disaster in the making again, and you're just prolonging the whole process and compounding it all over again. So stay alone for a little bit. There's no prescribed amount of time, but you want to make sure that you're healed. You process the baggage of the relationship, and that doesn't mean analyzing it to death. All it really means is that you're able to see what led to the demise, what lessons did you learn? That's all you really have to analyze, is just ask yourself and journal. If you have, books that you can read for self-care and keeping yourself distracted and grounded, like distracted from the grief and grounded in self-reflection, then you can also reflect on, this is what happened. What did I learn from this experience? Granted, I didn't want this to happen, but it has, and now I have to move on from it. So what can I learn from this experience? That's all you need to analyze. wondering what if this or how did that happen, that's not healthy, and it's just going to be a slippery slope of anxiety. So then once you're able to do that, process the baggage. But that's what that means, so that you're really cleansing yourself of any type of blame or resentment towards the other person, and you're able to grow from it. So it's a positive thing. Learning a lesson is a great thing. And it's something you can apply next time. So then you start focusing on what comes next and meeting new people. And so then deciding and determining what your filter is. So what are my values? What are the things that are really essential? What type of woman or man am I looking for? What are the interests that they need to have? What maybe was missing from the attraction that now I know I need in the next relationship? What do I want for my future? What did I learn that I want for my future that I didn't know before? And how can I apply that with the next person by finding out, asking certain questions, or spending time with them in certain circumstances, so that I know what they're capable of and what they're willing to commit to. So now you're going into the next dating phase armed with so much knowledge and so much experience. And it's not even really experience until you learn from it. Otherwise, it's just baggage. It's just wounds. So now you're making it a learned growth experience. And then, you never know how long it takes to meet the next person. Sometimes it requires longer periods of solitude, but don't be afraid. It's all going to be worth it. You're going to be able to accomplish lots of other things. Just remember, reframe it as an opportunity to rediscover what you're passionate about, find new things to be passionate about, or build up skills that you didn't have time for before. Just imagine all the things that you can do by owning your own time and being free to make your own decisions and do what you want to do. To be a little bit selfish and let that be okay. And then learning from that and what you do just naturally by default on your own in order to take care of you, and learning what you can then ask for in the next relationship as what you need. And maybe some stuff is not necessary and it is self-indulgent, and you can kind of mesh with your next partner through compromise, and maybe some of those things will drop off, and you might not be able to do all of those things as much as you did when you were alone, but then you would have appreciated by that time all of that alone time and look back on it and say, hey, maybe it wasn't all bad and I ended up in a better place. So that's those are my words of wisdom for today, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that button and subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up if this was useful to you, and please leave me a comment so that I can read some feedback and then apply it to the next video that I make, especially if you've got some ideas of topics that you'd like to hear from me. I'd like to talk to you too, so reach out anytime. All right, I'm off. Ciao. Have a good night.